Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Here's a weekend recap of some of the work I did on my innovation projects, most of which I did not stream, but I figured I'd recap anyway. What I did stream was writing docs and tests for Go Reflected. I got coverage to 90% and in the process fixed some bugs, so that was great. Now there's some good docs. But I'm not ready to release it because it's a project that's basically entirely about the API, and I'm still not confident the API won't change. But when it is ready to release, all I'll need to do is write a README. Some more interesting work I did off stream was starting to use my UI framework to port the UI prototype, the separate project, that I started recently to it. So that was written in basically plain old JavaScript and using jQuery and stuff, and it was mostly based around two jQuery components. One was a JS tree, and the other is this other kind of how would you describe it? Like a inspector, right? So, and not really using the most of it, but this is what I made, right? This kind of like node editor where you can have properties and name them and then add components to them and stuff like that. And so, you know, I have more to do on this prototype, but I thought maybe I would try and port it to the UI framework and not just port the actual jQuery things. I was going to wrap the jQuery components into a component so it sort of encapsulates it, and then eventually maybe I can replace it, but alternatively I could just keep using the jQuery component for as long as it's effective. So that project here, we can see is set up like components, you know, starting to be a lot cleaner. You can see I made button components. So let me just run this. This is 81. So basically the same functionality. I don't have, whoops. Well, that's interesting. It keeps reloading it. It was working before, but anyway, these mostly work. But at least they're rendering right, and the events are all working. So there's a simple button component that doesn't really do much except take an on-click property, and it takes a slot because the template looks like this, where we can define what the button text is, and I just bind on-click to that on-click. So if we look at our app, we bind the add button and the reset button to on add and on reset. Our app looks like this. We've got some methods on reset, which basically does some stuff with the JS Global API, kind of redoing some of the stuff that the functions that I had in this one, right? You can see like reset, on add, and in this case I had to do some stuff. I had to add refs. So being able to reference objects in here, I added to the framework. So for example, in the app, I want to reference the tree view. When it's a component, it gives you the ref is an instance of the component, and then within the component, so this is our tree view, where it's basically just setting up an element and then calling the jQuery to set it up, and then we create some helpers so that it's easier to not use jQuery from the Go side. And we set up a ref on this element, which gives us, which we set up like this. And then that gives us access to that DOM node. Right, we can start calling functions on it and stuff like that. So basically, half of the setup is going on in here, and then slowly more of that setup is happening in here. But all the event handlers and stuff are happening here. We've got an onChange handler, onSelect, and those all work. What else? So anyway, this is kind of giving you an idea of like what it's like to actually build an app with this, and it feels a lot like React, you know, with kind of Vue-like templating, which is pretty cool. So anyway, I was originally thinking that prototype, that in order to get it cleaned up and structured, I'd use something like Vue. But since this is already working out, I'm just going to keep pushing on this. It's helping me fix issues in the UI framework necessary for building real apps, and it's cleaning up the prototype for further development. So anyway, that's it for now. Let me know if you have thoughts or questions in the comments. Subscribe if you'd like to follow along on all this stuff. Or you can join me live on Twitch Tuesdays and Thursdays. But otherwise, see you later.